Welcome back to Connor Holden Football. Today we are going to be taking a deeper look at Chelsea's issues and trying to fix them with some simple tweaks that don't necessarily constitute in spending another £1 billion on this already massive squad. But first, to understand the issues, we have to get into the fact of what is going wrong at Chelsea. They're currently languishing in 12th place, losing 4 of the last 10 games against the likes of Brentford, Manchester United and Everton. And then, of course, you have the ever-growing injury list, which is not allowing the squad to develop any consistency in selection. Now, here is the previous lineup from the side that lost 2-0 to Everton, starting in that familiar 4-2-3-1 formation. Of course, in this game, there was a few tactical tweaks. Gallagher came a bit deeper than Enzo, which hasn't been happening as of late, but Gallagher being closer to Moises Caicedo in terms of duelist purposes against an Everton side that thrive off of winning long balls, knock-ons and things like that. That was quite important to have them two close together to battle that against Everton. So that did make some sense. But the rest of the structure as of late has not looked similar to what we saw early in the season. We're starting to see this back four form in build-up with the 2 in front, the 3 and the 1, but almost too compact in central areas with that 3-1. We're not finding nearly enough width and it's looking a lot more like a 4-2-3-1 in and out of possession, which isn't Pochettino's original style. Let's compare that to our shape against Liverpool at the start of the season, who currently sit top of the league. With this structure in this game, we produced 1.35 expected goals, 65% possession against Liverpool, who, albeit, don't always want the ball, but a whopping 5 big chances created, which is huge. Compare that to our recent loss against Everton, where yes, we had 72% of the ball, but we created, drumroll please, 0 big chances. Now, what are the tactical principles of this structure? It creates that back 3 with 2 in front, which allows you to create that 3-2 build-up of 5 players, nice and central and compact. It also creates that box midfield with the double pivot, the right wing, which is Palmer in this instance, coming inside, and the number 10, forming that box midfield essentially. And then, of course, you get the width on both sides, one from a winger and one typically from a fullback. So in this instance, Chilwell was actually playing as a left winger, so he was providing that width on the left, whilst James was pushing forward to provide that width on the right. So now let's take a look at one of the tweaks we could make, and this is going to include Nkunku and Lavia coming back from injury into the team. Anyone that I've missed out doesn't mean that they're not going to be a part of the squad. It's just me forming what I think could work quite well in terms of what we've got at our disposal right now. Now on screen, you can see how it would look in build-up using that half-back, which Lavia and Caicedo could do, which would then allow both full-backs to push forward and provide the width, which would then see Mudryk, or whoever's on the left, Sterling, someone else, Palmer as well from the right, come inside and form that box midfield. So it still creates that familiar shape that we saw earlier in the season, but just a different way of doing it with a half-back dropping into the back 3 rather than one of the full-backs becoming a back 3 player. The way this lineup works as well would allow us to sustain pressure a lot better in the opposition half, with the fullbacks pushed nice and high, pressing them into their half, pinning the other team's wingers and fullbacks in. Lavia and Caicedo, Lavia would push back up into the midfield to form that 2 block, which would really press, and duels and everything would be won in that central area to then keep the play in that half. And then Colwill and Badiashile would obviously be there as another keepsake to defend the transition. It allowed you to form these nice little triangles, so you can have James and Gusto, or James or Gusto, or Cucurella or Chilwell pushing up nice and high. It could then even come to the point where Mudryk, because he's obviously very good out wide, you could also peel him out wide to find that 1v1 isolation. You then have Cucurella or Chilwell slightly come inside at the bottom of that triangle. And same with Palmer, he can come inside, allow James or Gusto to go past him. It just allows those really nice, neat, intricate triangles that we were used to seeing under Pep Guardiola's Manchester City a lot with the likes of Cancelo. And it still forms this structured build-up where you have 5 in a central area. So the fullbacks are almost going to be no part of build-up. They're going to bomb on. Then you're going to have Badiashile, Colwill, Lavia, Caicedo, Enzo in this instance. You got nice and compact 5. It sort of looks a little bit like when you invert fullbacks and you find that 5 with that one centre point being Lavia. You could also then move this around. Enzo would obviously get on the ball a lot more in this instance, which would be very good for him. And he'd have a lot more to pick out in front of him, with the fullbacks providing width. Now we're going to get into a solution that I've found, which does include one big signing, and I have put Osimhen on screen. I think he could be a transformative signing. You could imagine this as Tony if you want somebody else as an example. Yet again, in rotation, in build-up, you would find this 3-2-4-1 shape. And then by having Nkunku in the 10 and Palmer coming into the 10 position, you could really dominate that zone 14 area, which is very important in the modern era of football. So zone 14 is the area that I've got highlighted there with Nkunku and Palmer inside, which is just behind the 18-yard line and in between the halfway line and the 18-yard. So it's that central area, that central pocket where a lot can happen, and that's where defenders really don't want you to be, because obviously from there you can shoot, you can make a drive into the box, you can easily make a pass into one of the wingers from that area, and you can just gain a lot more territory from that area once the ball is in there. A key reason these rotations would be perfect for zone 14 is then you would end up with Nkunku and Palmer in zone 14, and then you'd have Osimhen attacking the box with the width providing obviously by Mudryk, Gusto, James, for example. It would then also mean that you have two of your best ball strikers in zone 14, able to pick up the ball, take long shots, cause spillages, Osimhen to run onto. It will also then allow a lot more space for then Enzo to push up and collect the ball, because people will be so preoccupied with Nkunku and Palmer in such a dangerous area that Enzo can then pick up the ball and he can find those long passes into Osimhen, into the wingers, to provide very high output attacks. And again, of course, you form that lovely box midfield with Enzo, Caicedo, Palmer and Nkunku. You're getting your width from one of your fullbacks and Mudryk, and Osimhen is in the striker. One thing to note is Colwill in this instance starts as a left back, which I've heard a lot of people moaning about as of late. But of course, with this, you get to start him as a left back and move him into a left centre back where he can get on the ball and build up within that 3-2, which he's very good at. He can also defend wide areas, so there's no issue with him defending the transitions. And then you also have Caicedo to cover in those areas, coming back to the right side for that right side protection. So you have very good protection on both sides in transition, and it allows Colwill to get on the ball, and it just works very well with rotations. And that is why we saw early in the season Pochettino using Colwill as a left back purely for those rotation purposes in build-up. I've just given you a few more visuals on screen of how this works. You create those triangles in possession, in build-up. You've got that zone 14 dominance with Nkunku and Palmer, and then adding that Osimhen type striker in the box, it just allows that fear to be instilled into the opposition, and at that point teams will start to back off because they don't want Osimhen to get in the box, which is then when you can get the ball into zone 14 more often, and it just has a knock-on effect up the pitch, because then the zone 14 dominance allows Enzo to get on the ball more, and these zone 14 presences then means that fullbacks have the decision to make. Do they come inside to protect and try and block the shot, which could then leave Mudryk with more 1v1 isolations, and he'll be putting the ball into the box where Osimhen is a bit more of an aerial threat than the likes of Jackson and Brozier right now. So it just has that real knock-on effect throughout the team. So the first question I'm going to answer is from Joshua Bile on X, who has asked me about Pochettino being limited due to his squad personnel, whether he can win trophies with us, and do I believe he can do that, and will I be patient with this team? Now, just to start it off very quickly, yes, I'll be very patient with this team. We have bought a very young team. The transfer strategy, whether I agree with it or not, is to buy players very young. They are not battle-tested. They have not got many Premier League minutes between them all, and they need time to develop as a group. I do believe that if you just let this team grow with Pochettino for a year period, yes, we might have to go through some very hard struggles, as we already have and we've already seen. But I think that if you give it that time to organically grow, where they can grow relationships and make relationships on the pitch, where people know that Mudryk's going to get to the byline and they know where to attack the space that he's going to put it into. These sort of relationships are massive in football, and I think that will make all the difference with this team. Do I believe we can win trophies with this team? I believe we can get to cup finals and win these sort of trophies. I will say, I think Pochettino personally, and I've said this since the beginning, I really like him. I think he is the progression manager to develop this side. I don't think that when we get to the point of this project that these players are becoming world-class, elite-level talents, that if they do become that, I don't think Pochettino would be the man then to take it forward. I do believe Pochettino is almost the guy to elevate the squad to the level, and then for somebody else to take over and inherit the squad to then take it to the next level towards titles. And the other question I've decided to answer is from Reality, also over on X. And he's basically asked, why does the on-paper elite midfield of Enzo Caicedo and Gallagher fail to control games and produce XG in the game? Is it to do with the profiling, the tactical approach, or is it fatigue? Now, my opinion with this is it depends how you look at it, because there is games where we do control with these midfields. We have had big periods of games where we have 69% of the ball against Brentford. We have 72% of the ball against Everton. We are technically controlling the game. But against the likes of Manchester United, for example, where we did just look very fatigued, very slow, very sluggish. Of course, we didn't have Gallagher in that game either, but that is where we did struggle to sort of get off on the ball. And I also do think that tactically right now, the emphasis is to go a bit more direct and to find a quicker route to goal. So we're not always looking to hold the ball as much as we can. So against the likes of Man City, Tottenham, it was very much so. We wanted to make it into a bit of a duel fest. We wanted to get the ball, we wanted to win it back, we wanted to attack. So it doesn't look like we're controlling games in that sense. And then in terms of expected goals, I think, again, those expected goals are going to come from different areas. Enzo, yes, can offer that. And yes, Gallagher does make those runs into the box, but I don't think that's quite clicking for him this season, making the runs into the box for Gallagher. And I don't know if that's because he's added so much more to his game that he's now having to do a bit more in other areas, that's become less of a focal point for him. I'm not sure. But Enzo as well, I don't think we're giving him enough to create. I think he's having to be the sort of link between a lot of different players to get other people on the ball. Like, there's a lot of times where Enzo makes some very simple passes, but people don't realise that he's getting us into very good positions for the likes of Mudryk to attack 1v1, Sterling to attack 1v1. And that's when Sterling will go and get an assist and a goal. But a lot of those progressions come from that midfield. So it's easy to say that we're not dominating games, but I think there's a knock-on effect that goes from the back to the front of the pitch in terms of confidence, in terms of the way we want to play out, in terms of the way we want to play, the way we want to create chances. And I do think it will click. I just think it's going to take a lot of time. And yeah, in this video, I've sort of tried to highlight a few things that I think we could do to maybe take that step faster. But all in all, it's going to take time and people are going to have to buckle in for the long haul, realistically. I hope you've enjoyed this return to video content from me. It's been a few months since I produced some video content. I'm wanting to get back into the swing of things, try and produce videos like this, one a week, and then at the end of every video have these sort of Q&A sections where I answer a few questions, whether it be about Chelsea or whether it be about other teams that I'm doing videos about at the time. But yeah, I'm trying to really take that next step with my video content. I edit everything myself, as you can probably tell, because there's literally no editing involved. And everything I do is based on my own accord at the minute. So hopefully any support I could get from you guys, any feedback, all of that stuff would be brilliant. And also keep an eye out for my things with Tribal Football. I'm doing written analysis with them now and doing video analysis with them now. Doing a lot of work with them to look into different teams, different tactics. Some of the stuff has been about Chelsea, so go check all that out. Go check it out on my Twitter, on my X. Everything on there is there in one place. All my social medias, all of my channels, YouTube, TikTok, all of my work, it's all there to be found. So please like, comment, and subscribe to this YouTube channel for everything tactical analysis.